We're going to go through the bones that make up the wrist and the hand. And when we start with that, there are 8 bones that actually make up the wrist. Now the wrist is called the carpus, and the bones collectively are referred to as the carpal bones. So the bones here above the pointer to this point, these are all going to be the carpal bones. There are 2 rows of these bones, and there are 4 bones in each row. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then there's a smaller bone here that's part of what we call the proximal row, because this is closer to the point of attachment of the hand to the rest of the body. And then the distal row, 1, 2, 3, 4 bones in the distal row. There is a mnemonic that will enable you to remember the names of the bones of the wrist. The mnemonic is so long top part, here comes the thumb. And the first letter of each word is going to be the first letter in the name of the bone. Now to use this mnemonic, you have to start with the proximal row on the thumb side, work your way across to the side of the 5th finger, you come down to the distal row and work your way back to the thumb. So we'll go through the names of the bones in the wrist. The view that you see of the entire hand here, this would be the posterior view when you are in anatomical position. So when the hand would be like this. The anterior view, we'll flip it over, would be the hand in this position. So we'll look at the bones of the wrist in this position. We're going to start on the thumb side with our proximal row here, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is your scaphoid, the lunate, the triquetrum, which is actually underneath this rounded bone. The triquetrum can also be called the triquetral bone. The rounded bone that sits on top of the triquetrum is the pisiform. So long top part. Those are the bones in the proximal row. You come down to the distal row and you're going to start with the hamate, the capitate, the trapezoid, and the trapezium. So it is so long top part, here comes the thumb. There are a few landmarks that you can actually use, or memory devices, that will help you to remember the position and the names of the bones in this distal row. The hamate has a hook to it, and this is the hook that protrudes out. The hamate also is rather a ham, because it actually aligns itself with 2 of the bones of the metacarpals here. All the other ones in the distal row only get 1 bone. So the hamate has a hook and it's a ham. The capitate is going to be the bone that lines up with the largest finger in the hand. So if you think of this 3rd finger as the captain of the fingers, it will be easy to remember that this bone in the wrist is the capitate. The trapezoid is going to line up with the index finger, and the trapezium, the last part of that word has an sound to it, which reminds you of the thumb, and the trapezium and the thumb line up together. So these are going to be the 8 bones that make up the wrist. Now, the bones that make up the fleshy part of the hand, these are called the metacarpals, and there are 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when you look, the fleshy part of the hand is going to be this area. Now, these bones are numbered, and the metacarpal that lines up with the thumb is the 1st metacarpal. The 2nd one lines up with the index finger. The 3rd metacarpal lines up with the 3rd finger. The 4th metacarpal lines up with the ring finger. And the 5th metacarpal is going to line up with the small pinky finger. And this is the way that we name these bones. So if a radiologist told you that there was a fracture in the 3rd metacarpal, you would know that it would be this bone. The remaining bones are going to be the bones of the fingers, and these are called the phalanges, that's plural. Phalanx is singular, and there are 14 phalanges that make up all of the bones of the fingers. Each of the fingers is going to have 3 phalanx, so 1, 2, 3, except for your thumb. It only has 2. Now these individual bones are going to be distinguished by their position. So we will have proximal phalanx, the ones that are closest to the metacarpals. You have middle phalanx, and then you have the distal phalanx. They are also numbered or named based on number. And so if a person were to say there is a fracture of the middle phalanx of the 2nd digit, you would know it would be this bone, because this is your 2nd digit, the index finger, and this is the middle phalanx. When we look at the bones in the thumb, there's only a proximal and a distal phalanx. So those are going to be the bones that make up the wrist, the hand, and the fingers.